So we're going to move on to Watershed Bill of Rights. So we're going to start with Teresa Hauser and Michael from Protect Our County.
Well, we'll figure out the little miniature presentation we have. So I'm Kate McMichael. We didn't bring something for every table because we're just volunteers on this one. And so anything that gets printed in my garage downstairs. So, but I did bring a few copies of the measure with some of the areas highlighted that we're going to talk about. And I also, on a related watershed note, brought also some flyers for some watershed webinar and some field tours that Extension and other groups are hosting on just watershed issues for some education, and we've left those by the front. So as I said, just a volunteer. I'm a retired high school world religions and ethics teacher who became a small woodland owner. This was actually one of the most beautiful little spots on our property. Not going to argue that watersheds need protecting, not going to argue that clean water is important, not going to argue that watershed resilience matters. All property, our retirement investment burned in the Holiday Farm fire, and it doesn't quite look like this anymore. So I really do believe in watershed protection. So go ahead. Before we got here, what's your name? I'm Teresa. This is Kate. I always want to say, and we are here to pump you up. That ages me a little bit. Anyway, before we got up here, we were priced out of San Francisco. Before we were priced out of San Francisco, we spent, I think I was there 15 years. You were there at least a decade, working in the Tenderloin. I don't know if you guys know other cities, impoverished areas, but the Tenderloin is San Francisco's. And we worked with all the permutations of impoverished communities. And one of the supervisors for our district, we actually got someone elected who was a community organizer and an activist. And he talked to a bunch of us who were involved in organizing at that time and said, measures will come up. How do you evaluate them? And his rule of thumb was you have to be able to agree with all of it. Because if you vote yes, all of that will go into effect. And if you don't agree with all of it, you're stuck with the part you didn't agree with. So if you disagree, go ahead and vote no. The framers can go back and come back with another effort. That's sort of like coming from. Sort of like how I used to help my students do true or false questions. If any part of a question is false, then it's false, because it all has to be true to be true. And our biggest concern as small landowners about this measure is that the talking points, however powerful most of them are not what's written in the measure. And what we're voting on in the election is the measure, not the talking points. So we've taken a few screenshots from the actual measure from the proponent's website. It's very difficult to find it on the Elaine elections page, but it's much easier to find on the proponent's website. So this is where this came from. So all residents of Lane County possess the right to enforce this law. And so all residents will come up again. Empowerment is awesome. Also, I want you to think about any open mic night you've gone to. For us, working in faith and justice circles, it was competing prayer to the faithful. If any of you have been to churches where that's happened, that's unpleasant. Also, this law expands rights protections for people and nature above those provided by state, federal, or international law. The issue there is that if lawsuits come up, what do judges evaluate the merits of a lawsuit on? Because they can't go to existing law. They can only go to this measure. So what are they supposed to do? That's a really hard position, I think, for judges to be put in. The other one that concerns us is, once again, that any resident of Lane County gets to be the one to determine if they think there is a danger of damage or a violation. And this one is the kicker for me as someone who worked across the hall. I taught theology, but I worked across the hall from the chemistry department and down the hall from the biology department, and I was the kid sister of our science department. And scientific certainty is actually really important. So anything that says that you do not have to have anything but a potential violation or a danger of damage determined by any resident of Lane County, no matter who they are or what position, can push this measure forward, can push a lawsuit forward, and you don't need scientific certainty or even full evidence of risk. That concerns me, just reading the measure, because one person's idea of damage and another person's idea of damage may look different. Post-holiday farm fire up the Mackenzie, there's a lot of heavy equipment in the river trying to do floodplain reconnection. And I know that there are people out there that think that that is damaging to the watershed, not that it is actually doing something helpful. And I would hate to see that sort of restoration work stopped. So the other thing is I know that there's a big push on punishing corporate polluters. I'm with you. Again, we're not talking about evidence of pollution. We're talking about danger of damage. Also, you could write this measure so that it actually clearly targets Weyerhaeuser, who is, specifically mentioned on the webpage, but it doesn't. It says any corporate, government, or other business entities. And in Oregon, a nonprofit is a business. An LLC is a business. EWEB, the watershed councils, the Upper Willamette Soil and Water Conservation District, all of them could fall under this category. Housing development projects, churches, schools, special districts. Once again, not arguing that watersheds are valuable and need protection, arguing with the language of the measure, because we're not voting on the talking points. We're voting on the words of the measure.
Great. Thank you.
That's all we got.
Okay. So Clean Water Initiative, Nick Squires.
We have a couple pieces of material we're bringing up, so bear with us for an extra few seconds. My better half is my assistant today. Well, we even grow some respect. All right. Vote on your rights. This guy. I'm gonna give you that one. Okay. You're good. If I trip, I promise not to bring a frivolous lawsuit. Okay, my name's Nick. I live over in the Willow Glen subdivision, so I'm in the neighborhood. A little bit about me. I'm a licensed building contractor, licensed high school educator. I have a double master's, and I'm about to finish my PhD. I have published work in watershed management and species reintroduction. So I have an idea of watersheds, but I'm not here today as an expert. I'm here today as someone who cares about the water. I'm here today as your neighbor. I'm here today because I have a family. I imagine most of the people in here have a family. They also have kids, grandkids. I'm here because Measure 20373 is a good bill. We're hearing a lot about talking points. Every political debate is a talking point. Our talking points are science-based and fact-based. I have a case law that I brought with me that shows the measure, its merits, the 39 other countries that have rights of nature laws. Over 400 of these laws exist here and internationally. Rights of nature is recognized by the United Nations, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. This isn't radical science. Since we're on a truncated timetable, I only have 5 minutes. I want to go right into a story of why we have this water, or why we have this watersheds bill. In 2011, there was aerial spraying and clear-cut logging surrounding the Triangle Lake community. Within weeks of this aerial pesticide and herbicide spraying, Triangle Lake residents and surrounding communities are coming down with health effects. Immune system compromised, hair falling out, miscarriages. There's one woman who had over 5 miscarriages. This bill is about talking points. It's also about that poor woman who had 5 miscarriages. They made complaints to both local and state authorities. Nothing happened. They hired an independent scientific researcher from Purdue University and others to have their urine tested. Every single resident in Triangle Lake tested positive for 2,4-D, the second main ingredient in Agent Orange. Just as some context, less than 1 in 5 people in the United States test positive for that chemical. They also found pesticide in the water supply of the elementary school. Still nothing happened. They presented this results to the state. The state did an investigation. Roseburg Forest Products, Weyerhaeuser, and others changed aerial spraying schedules, withheld data, effectively sandbagging and sabotaging this investigation. Current environmental law is not good enough, despite what you're going to hear. It's not. We wrote this bill because we recognize that there's real harm and damages to our watersheds. Companies are prioritizing profits over people, plain and simple. Protect our county. It's strange they don't have enough material for all of you, considering they have over $200,000 of funding from the Koch brothers, Big Timber, and Big Petroleum. Yet they're forcing these 2 wonderful volunteers to print things in their garage. The average donation for Protect Our County is over $200,000 from out-of-state money. That's Kansas for the Koch brothers. That's Washington for Big Chemical. That's California for Big Timber. We gathered over 16,000 signatures to put this on the ballot. Our average donation, $200. We have 50 volunteers, give or take. We're hearing a lot about baseless lawsuits. How come there weren't baseless lawsuits for the Clean Air Act, the American Disabilities Act, the Endangered Species Act? How come rights-based legislation exists in 39 countries, including ours, and over 400 laws? How come they can't point to one city in the United States where there's a flood of frivolous lawsuits? They can't. It would have been really easy to do a Google search. Did Pittsburgh have frivolous lawsuits? We're now hearing another super cute thing. Now we're preventing firefighters from doing their job. They picked a hero everyone loves. Whether it's a wildfire, a house fire, or one of those sexy calendars you see at Walmart, people love firefighters. All of a sudden, our bill's now targeting heroes. Frivolous lawsuits are already barred under Oregon state law. If you look in these truth packets, I've refuted every single talking point from Protect Our County. I have sources documented in these. You want to talk talking points? All I heard in this presentation before me was talking points. I have sources, I have data. ORCP 17 prevents frivolous lawsuits. You have to show merit. Whether I'm suing McDonald's over a cup of coffee or I'm suing Weyerhaeuser for damages. No, your neighborhood landscaping company cannot be sued. You're not throwing thousands of gallons of pesticide in a watershed. My construction company is not going to be sued for logging a 1-acre parcel to build a house. This is real corporate polluters with real corporate money. I'm here today because I care about the water. I haven't seen Tim Morris here today, but he's usually my friendly nemesis in these debates. He made a joke that a hiker with Coca-Cola could spill it in the river and be sued. I'm 99% sure that the kids in Triangle Lake were suffering non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and other cancers didn't get that from Coca-Cola. This is not radical science. We're not preventing heroes from doing their jobs. There are statutes in place that are already preventing everything they're talking about. What administrative burden? That Chevron truck that ended up in the McKenzie River off the 126 6 months ago, the Department of Health responded to that. What's the difference? The difference is the Koch brothers and Big Timber and Big Chemical feel so threatened by this local measure that was written by your friends, your neighbors, and your family members that they're donating hundreds of thousands of dollars to defeat it. Follow the money. Thank you so much.
Great. We've allotted 5 minutes for question and answer on the measure for both sides. So yeah,
I would like to, I'll direct this to, the spell on the baseball cap.
Expires.
Expires, because I want to hear some more about the money.
So if you look in the truth packet, Star has public records. It's public record, these donations. These packets were written over 2 weeks ago. These numbers have more than tripled. Think about where the money's coming from. I have a flow chart and a map. You can see directly who's campaigning. Koch Government Affairs, Western States Petroleum Association, Sierra Pacific Industries, Wildish Land Company, CPM Development Corporation, tens of thousands of dollars 3 weeks ago. I don't know about you, but I don't think the Koch brothers have any of our personal interests in mind. Whether you're a landowner, a small business owner, someone suffering from cancer. The Koch brothers were the same people that told us tobacco was safe and climate change was a hoax. So forgive me if their political action committee is trying to tell me this isn't science-based measure.
Okay, we're going to the next question. Yep.
Nick,
Oh, give them a chance. Okay, yeah.
I'm concerned about data centers. Could you comment on that?
I think we're all concerned about data centers. We're reading in the news about Hillsborough and the Dalles. Data centers are a real threat. They use energy, they use water. Watershed Bill of Rights 20373 will provide extra levels of scrutiny and accountability for decisions that allow data centers into our county. I want that. I want scrutiny. I want the courts to decide. I want democracy to work. I don't want backroom deals.
More questions? All right. Well, thank you very much. All three of you. We appreciate it. And nutrient dense food and nutrient dense information. Fast and furious. We have a quick addition to the agenda. We have Katina St. Marie to introduce herself here.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Hi, I'm Katina St. Marie, and I'm running for Circuit Court Judge here in Lane County. This is the only contested judicial race on your ballot for Lane County. So I have been practicing law here in this community for almost 20 years. And I have a background mostly in family law. That's where I got started. I have worked for nonprofits and have dedicated my service to this community to low-income people and working families. I practice in the juvenile justice courts, and I represent children and moms and dads in dependency cases and some children in delinquency matters. I've also worked as a public defender, and the work in the juvenile dependency cases is also court-appointed work. For the last 3 years, I've been serving as a volunteer pro tem judge. So when a sitting judge goes on vacation, I'm on the bench taking cases, hearing matters, and making decisions. In 2023, I scaled back my practice for that year and did a bunch of trainings and seminars, educating myself in high conflict cases and learning how to interrupt high conflicts in family systems and work towards moving forward. So I work in mediation, and I teach parents how to stop fighting and get along and help them work through their judgment instead of going back to court. So when I have a family law case as a pro tem judge, I can make real decisions that are effective for families and help them move past their point of conflict so they're not living in that conflict and coming back to court. A lot of folks don't know that happens. So that's who I am. I have some pamphlets on the table, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if you had a moment. If not, we've got to keep going. Okay, thank you so much.
Jasmine Hatmaker.
Hi, I'm Jasmine Hatmaker. I was born here in Eugene, and I'm running for City Council in Ward 5. I'm running to make Eugene a better community for everyone, and I'm focused on building more housing for all income levels, a stronger local economy that improves the quality of life for everyone, and more support and resources for our seniors and veterans. I think it's important to have new voices on city council with more diverse perspectives and lived experience. And that is, thank you.
Thank you very much.